It has been a rough couple of days for Marjorie Taylor Greene. And good. That's what should happen when you're insider trading. When you're committing crimes, it is not unexpected that you get confronted for them. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene has faced very little accountability in her life, but unfortunately for her, she's about to get a lot more familiar with it. And it's not just accountability that hopefully comes legally. It is the continuation of the call-outs against her. And of course, we saw one of our favorites from one of our favorite Democrats, and Jasmine Crockett, who tore into Marjorie Taylor Greene and also made a comment about her reading ability that I think you will really enjoy. But before we get into that, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into Jasmine Crockett, I want a little bit of context on what she was talking about, which is Donald Trump's tariffs and the disaster that is Doge.
And I had the most successful I had the most successful 4-year period in the history of this country, and I think we're going to blow it away this time. But there is a little bit of a transition, and we're going to have that little transition, and it's not much of a transition. You know, if you look right now, we're getting 25% on cars, right? We're getting 25% on steel. We're getting 25% on aluminum. We're going to have some other things that we're going to be adding in the not too distant future because we want them to be made here. The medicines, the drugs, pharmaceuticals are going to be done, and computer chips, et cetera, and because of that.
When Donald Trump talks about a transition period in America, he's talking about transitioning whatever money, wealth, or ownership is left of the bottom 50% to the top 0.0001% of America, the billionaire buddies of Donald Trump. And Elon Musk talked about this a lot early on in Doge, that there was going to be some difficulty, a transition, as they have both called it. But what he's really talking about, not waste, fraud, and abuse, is going after the agencies that hold him accountable. This is all one big cover-up for their corruption, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is clearly playing along and benefiting. And that is why Jasmine Crockett called her out in this scathing takedown right here.
What I really want people to understand is that this has been painted as Democrats are for, waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's because they are the swamp and that kind of stuff. And I got news for you. The only fraudsters that we see is the one that was actually convicted of fraud in a court, the one who also was found liable as it relates to his businesses for fraud. Him and his goons are the problem in this country right now. And it is so sad when you have a government worker who literally knows that he's going to have a target on his back, but he believes in something bigger than himself. He believes in the ideals of this country. He believes in democracy, and he knows what that means. He knows that it's more than waving a flag and saying that you're a patriot, but it's coming forward and doing the right thing. And right now, the only thing that I'm asking of Americans, no matter what party affiliation you normally associate with, is to decide that you're going to be on the side of right. And right now, everything about this administration is wrong.
I will note that Elon Musk has a history with the NLRB. It's an independent federal agency. And there were questions and complaints from his employees at SpaceX in 2022. So it all continues to seem to be connected.
I don't know if...
Please.
Yeah, and I don't think that it was just questions or complaints. We know that he was under investigation. And when it came down to the inspector generals, the people that are supposed to make sure that they can be the watchdogs, the impartial watchdogs, this was definitely one of those watchdogs that he wanted to get rid of almost immediately. So we don't have the inspector general that would have been overseeing that investigation, nor any of the investigations around his trashy Teslas either.
You know, this is not just, what Doge is doing is not a Beltway D.C. story, as I think some people on Fox News and some of my Republican friends would like to believe. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene was asked about this in one of her town halls just recently. I want you to take a listen. She read the question, though. She didn't take a live question. We'll see it.
Why is MTG supporting Musk and Doge and the slashing of Medicaid, Social Security offices, libraries, and more? This is outrageous, from Sarah. Well, Sarah, unfortunately, you're being brainwashed by the news that you're watching.
Congresswoman.
this is coming from someone who clearly reads on a first grade level, so I don't know why she's trying to clown Sarah, who obviously is a constituent of hers. And what's really sad is this is the woman that oversees the subcommittee on DOJ. And when you think about the things that we should be investigating, we've had to have hearings about whether or not we should get rid of Sesame Street. Instead of her calling for, say, a hearing over something like this, where there is a concern about the fact that we may have Russian infiltration. And I don't even know if it's infiltration at this point, because it seems like this administration wants to cozy up to Russia in all ways. And so for all I know, they just gave over the login information because it seems like they really haven't decided that Russia isn't our friend. Instead, they've done things like gone after Canada and Mexico. So it is unfortunate that we are talking about issues that have to do with our safety, that have to do with our privacy. And we have an administration that I honestly don't know if they're in cahoots or not.
We know exactly why Donald Trump or Elon Musk or Marjorie Taylor Greene, lump them all together. We know why they make decisions. It is either because of their greed or it is because of their stupidity. And that stupidity is oftentimes seen a little bit more in Marjorie Taylor Greene than really any other person in the history of our government. But that is what is ultimately directing them all of the time. And it's what we've seen play out in this blatant market manipulation. And, in fact, we brought up stupidity and corruption in a previous video I did. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. We saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene, after becoming the chairwoman of the DOJ subcommittee, bought herself some Tesla stock. Now, of course, since then, Tesla stock has tanked. So we had a little bit of fun saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene was too stupid to insider trade. But when she is getting all the tips possible from Donald Trump, it is made a little bit easier. But that's what this is all about. Again, we have to be talking about the corruption, the dark money that isn't a part of our politics anymore, but with Elon Musk essentially is our politics, or at least is the Republican Party. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to play into that and be a part of it as much as she possibly can. It is all about the criminality. It is all about the corruption. And of course, that criminality brings to mind Donald Trump's current embarking on the greatest violation of our Constitution we have ever seen, his complete disregard for the rule of law, and his unlawful deportation of Abrego Garcia. And Chris Hayes has updates on that right here.
The whole point of having due process in this country, and really any country, is so that you can find out what the truth is, right? There's lots of allegations against Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The Trump administration has called him a gang member, a terrorist, and a human trafficker. Those are serious things to say about someone. Yesterday, the DOJ released this trove of documents intending to show that the man is an MS-13 gang member, including something called a gang field interview sheet that was put together in 2019 from the Prince George's County Police Department of Maryland. The report alleges that during a 2019 interview with police, Abrego Garcia was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and a hoodie with rolls of money covering the eyes, ears, and mouth of the presidents on the separate denominations. Officers know such clothing to be indicative of Hispanic gang culture. The report also says officers spoke to a, quote, reliable source of information who advised Abrego Garcia is an active member of MS-13. Today, the Prince George's County Police Department released a statement confirming that Abrego Garcia was never charged with a crime. They also confirmed that one of the officers who put together that gang field interview sheet pleaded guilty to misconduct in office in an unrelated case and was fired in 2022. Now, Abrego Garcia's lawyers and family say he is not a gang member, and we know that he has no criminal record. But of course, none of these allegations, right, against Abrego Garcia are definitive one way or the other. The whole point of hundreds of years of legal tradition we are inheritors to is that there is a process to establish these contested facts. They could have just held an immigration hearing. As Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson, the legendary conservative Reagan appointee on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, noted in a remarkable ruling today, one that thunders with righteous indignation from a jurist long admired on the right. Wilkinson writes, quote, "The government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident of its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order," right? That was the order that was in place to stop him from being deported to El Salvador. So, in other words, if you guys are so certain he's guilty, it should be easy to prove. In fact, the standard that would pertain here would be a preponderance of the evidence, not even beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That portion I read you was part of the larger decision today in which the Fourth Circuit rejected efforts by the Trump DOJ to short-circuit the lower court's order to facilitate Abrigo Garcia's return from that prison in El Salvador. Judge Wilkinson also included a stark warning, quote, "It is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. This should be shocking, not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear." Ashra Agapa is a former FBI special agent, now an assistant dean at the Yale Jackson School of Global Affairs, and she joins me now. Good to have you here.
Thanks.
This was a 7-page, opinion order issued by the Fourth Circuit, authored by Wilkinson. It really sort of put me back in my chair.
Yeah, I think when he says it's very simple to get to the heart of the matter, you know, there aren't many silver linings in this Abrigo Garcia situation, but we do have the fact that we've gone from zero to Pinochet in 100 days.
This is a constitutional crisis, and maybe the most important fight of this entire administration. We cannot let the rule of law be trampled anymore. You know, Republicans like to frame the chaos of the Trump administration as mean tweets. That's what they like to say. Liberals overreacting to the mean tweets. This is not mean tweets. This is a violation of our Constitution. This is chaos, unrest, and a global distrust in America that is impacting our economy directly. People don't want to come here. People don't want to invest here. People don't want to associate with America. And why would they under this administration? The people who said that they were voting on prices, not only are you being screwed over because of Donald Trump's tariffs and the rest of his idiotic economic agenda, but his mere presence alone inflicts a financial burden on the average American. Think about that. Such an unsettling and evil individual that his existence brings us all down. Let's make that clear. It's what we're going to be talking about on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.